everyone. We are back live. Thanks for joining us. Again, this is Dr. Eric Block. I'm your host of our weekly Live with Blocky on I Love Dentistry, where we discuss a topic for the day and with a member of the group. And today we're joined by Dr. Laura Brenner. How you doing, Laura?
I'm great, Eric. Thanks for having me.
And tonight's topic is non-clinical careers in dentistry. And Dr. Brenner is a friend of mine, and she's a recovering dentist. She practiced for 10 years before leaving clinical dentistry behind for good. She is a certified professional coach and helps dentists and hygienists design their lives and careers on their terms. She lives in Denver. She has a husband, a dog, loves to travel, cook, hike, and most importantly, she went to Tulane with me. That's right. We survived 4 years of Tulane. Dr. Brenner is the founder of Lolabee's Career Coaching and the very popular Dentist Side Gigs Facebook group. So, Laura, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. We survived Tulane. We made it.
We did. We lived to tell the story.
That's right. Although a lot of it stays secret.
That's right. Top secret.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Where are you zooming in from today?
Denver, Colorado. I'm in my little office that has windows facing me, so it's perfect.
Nice. Now, if we could figure out how to do this, if anyone wants to add in the comment section any questions for me or Dr. Brenner, we'll try to figure out how to do this and take some live questions. But Dr. Brenner, tell me all about yourself, your story, because you know, dentistry, that, you know, this Facebook group is called I Love Dentistry, but, you know, let's face it, dentistry is a grind and it may not be for everyone. And that's what you found for yourself, correct?
Yes. And I remember when I joined this group for the very first time, I actually posted a question saying, can I join if I don't love dentistry, but I love dentists? So I got the green light. So I graduated dental school in 2001. So it's been 20 years. I practiced for 10 and I didn't love dentistry. It was really hard for me. And my first 3 years were great because I knew they were going to be hard. I expected dentistry to be very challenging, but I always had hope that the more practice I could get, the easier it would get for me to do dentistry. So at about year 3, I started noticing that things were getting harder for me. I mean, some things were getting easier, but in general, I was becoming more and more burnt out. And on the one hand, I thought, I'm too young to burn out, right? Like 3 years in, how can I be burnt out already? So that was very confusing. But what happened was I lost a lot of hope, because that idea that I would still, that, you know, things were going to be easy one day and they were going to be better and I was going to not have a lot of the same problems. Once my future showed me that that wasn't actually happening, it just became really difficult and I lost a lot of hope. So that kind of began my process of, I just wanted to quit. I remember 3 years in taking my dental supply rep out for lunch. People tease me. They're like, he's supposed to take you out for lunch. I'm like, I know, but I wanted his help. And I remember asking him about, hey, like, could I do your job? Like, could you hire someone like me at your company? And he talked me out of it because he was like, oh no, you're too educated and you'd be wasting your education. And, there's no way that you could, like this, you're too good for this job. So he talked me out of it. And, that was actually, to this topic today that we're talking about, non-clinical careers, that was my first attempt at seeing, like, what else could I do in dentistry? But I was told that it was, I mean, in his words, it was sort of like it was beneath me, and that really silenced me, because I then continued over the next 7 years being really miserable and really wanting to leave, but feeling like I had no options. So spending the next 7 of my 10 years feeling very stuck, feeling like I had no skills. And then finally One day my husband was like, I joke that he gave me an ultimatum. He was like, we can't do this anymore. If you keep coming home crying, if you wake up with insomnia every night at 2 a.m., he's like, our marriage is not going to last. So sort it out and do what you need to do. And it was probably realistically more permission than an ultimatum, but I'm so lucky he did that, because it opened my eyes and allowed me to say, all right, I've got his permission. Now I need to give myself permission. And so after 10 years, I left dentistry to completely, I needed to separate myself from dentistry. I joke, it's sort of like a divorce. Everything in dentistry is like a relationship. And I had to really walk away in order to be able to come back with a fresh set of eyes. So here I am now. Do you want me to tell you about that?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to find out what was it about dentistry that made you, hang up your handpiece after 10 years, but wanted to do it even sooner. What was it about dentistry that was the most challenging for you?
It was the patients. I mean, there were challenges with working with, being an associate. There are challenges with being an owner and an associate. So there were staff challenges at times. But really the thing that really got to me was I was a people pleaser. I was a perfectionist, and I just so badly wanted to make everything great for my patients. And instead of doing that, what that did was I ended up carrying their burdens, and patients' burdens create a really heavy weight on our shoulders. So I was just like, I was sinking and crushing under this need to always make everyone else happy at my own expense. And it really led to, there's some really classic signs of burnout. It led to, I'd say the biggest one was I lost empathy for my patients. I stopped really, it's that compassion fatigue is what they call it. And I just, like, their problems became annoying to me, and I didn't want to deal with any of them. So that was probably the biggest sign. I'd say the other really big sign was that I couldn't celebrate my wins. Like if I did a great case or really helped out someone or made a great connection with someone, it was a lot harder for me to celebrate that I actually accomplished something great that was life-changing. Like I didn't feel like I was changing people's lives and impacting them. And so when you feel like your work is meaningless and pointless, that's a huge sign of burnout.
Yeah, I think that a lot of dentists are guilty of that, not celebrating the wins, and not focusing on the 30 good things you did in a day, but just focusing on the one bad thing or one uncomfortable situation. So I think that, as dentists, we do need to celebrate the wins and enjoy, the good things that happen, and not just focus on, the one or two bad things. Now, what about clinical side of dentistry? Did you actually enjoy the clinical side of dentistry, the actual clinical work?
I did. I always said if I could do it on teeth that were not attached to human beings, that I would have really enjoyed it. Or put zippers on people's cheeks, I did. I liked dental school. I liked the procedures. It was really this dynamic of feeling like I could not ever win with patients, that no matter how much I put into it, I could never predict when things were going to work out. And I take responsibility for that. It's all the way I saw dentistry, but I think a lot of us see it that way. So it's worth addressing.
One of the biggest game changers for me is an isolation device. So I pop that baby in, and actually I have my staff do it, and there's no chit chat. It's go time. There's, like you said, the zipper, they're propped open. And that was one of the biggest game changers for me. Is it's like, okay, I did my chit chat, got them numb, and now it's go time.
Right.
So Would you say that when you left dentistry, was it a huge relief for you?
Oh yes, it was. I mean, I used that image of the weight on my shoulders, and it was like this huge weight had been lifted. And by the way, I mean, just really quickly, this idea of not wanting teeth to be attached to the people is, if you're finding that, if someone else is finding that, and you consider yourself a social person who likes people, then that's part of burnout too. It's is that you can be a social person who likes people, and then the way your relationship with dentistry is, or with patients in general, might change that. But I'll tell you, when I left, it was a mixed bag. On some levels, I was so relieved, and I could finally feel like myself again. And over just a short amount of time, I really did begin to feel like myself again. I think when I talked to people who had to take 2 months off during COVID, the initial lockdowns in 2020, they expressed the same thing, that during those 2 months, they were like, wow, I really felt like myself again. So there's that. But at the same time, for me, there was a lot of shame because no one was really talking about this in 2011. People weren't talking about burnout like they are now. And so I felt like a failure, and I kind of felt like a loser. And I had to really work through that to eventually realize that, there's it ultimately, we might have to take some hard steps, but when they're the right steps, everything's going to fall into place. And that the negative feelings, the pain that was associated with that, was actually a good thing for me, because it forced me to work through my definition of success and really become more confident that it's important to me to choose my life on my terms. And without that pain, I may have never learned that.
And then also it sparked you to write your blog article, which I love the story that you had a blog article that went viral. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I can. So one of the things that happened was, while I was trying to find something that I could do other than dentistry, because a lot of us think, well, dental school is so specific, I have no skills, right? So I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And I started blogging, and I was blogging about food and travel, and nobody was reading my blog. And then one day I found this blog post in my blogging community that was titled 10 Reasons I Hate the Dentist. And I was like, okay, well, fine. So here's 10 reasons your dentist probably hates you too. And that was my response to her. And that night, literally that night of posting it, my blog post went viral. But the funny thing too is, I wrote it in August. And I was like, oh, I'm still practicing. I don't want patients to see this. They're going to think that, I'm a bad person. But a week after I quit my job, I posted it. And literally that night, my phone was just ringing off the hook with alerts and comments. And I got called some pretty nasty things from patients, but most patients thought it was fun. And most dental professionals really loved it. They felt like, finally, people make fun of us in the media and TV shows, and patients come to you and say, I hate to see you, I hate the dentist. And finally, someone's sharing our side. And so it was a really fun release for not just me, but a lot of people who got the chance to read it.
There was probably a lot of dentists that, read every single one of those, points that you made and felt, exactly the same way. And you probably found that, a lot of dentists that weren't talking about their issues or burnout or struggles with dentistry started to open up about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I got emails from people all over the world that were like, how did you do this? Wow, I want to quit too. Or I want to hang this up. I mean, it would range from, I want to quit to, I'm going to hang this up in my waiting room so patients can see how mean they are to us, you know? I mean, people just want a little kindness in return because we're devoting our whole lives to helping these people. And like, couldn't we just have a little appreciation? So yeah, I did hear from a lot of people over the years.
So let's talk about, the topic of the night is non-clinical careers in dentistry. And you have a Facebook group that's called Side Gigs, or dentist side gigs. Can you tell us about what some options are out there for dentists and hygienists?
Absolutely. So obviously there are the most common ones that everyone knows about, like working for an insurance company or teaching at the dental school. You could teach at the hygiene school, something like that. Dental assistants, people can teach. Those are sort of the main, they're sort of, hold on. We're live. I've got a hair on my tongue. It's making me insane. Hold on.
This is live. Anything goes here.
And I feel
This is
if we're real, oh, it's still there. Hold on. But at least I don't want you to, have to see me like picking. We're dentists, right? Like I could get out my toothpick right now and start.
Go for. You can start. I may start flossing right now. Just to.
We should do that sometime. So anyway, okay. So those are like the ones that everyone knows about, right? And obviously those are real. But I made a list because whenever people ask me, I'm always like, well, there are so many, but I can't think of them. Okay. So there's a role called an MSL. It's a medical science liaison. And what that is that someone who works with a pharmaceutical company. It's typically doctors or pharmacists who do this role, but I know a couple of dentists who have managed to get it. And there are some companies in dentistry who have these medical science liaisons. And what you do is you're the educational liaison between the company and the dentists or the doctors. So you're not selling, but you're going around to different offices and you're calling on these doctors and you're teaching them. And if they have questions, they come to you. So that's one role that is there. And not a lot of people know about. You could get into research. There's medical writing. A lot of dentists become coaches. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, everyone's being a coach. I don't want to be a coach because everyone's being a coach. But the reality is, you know why so many dentists are becoming coaches? Because that's the part of dentistry that they love the most, is the interacting with the patients, the connecting with them, helping them achieve their goals. And that's what coaches do. So there are all different types of coaching that you can do. And so it's just a really good fit, especially as well as consulting, right? If you've found something that works really well for you, you can teach others how to do it. So medical writing, that's another one. And I would say, being a practice broker. My friend Laurel Gans, she's not a practice broker, but she is she's in charge of like, professional growth, like marketing and professional development of this United Dental Brokers of America. So she's a dentist who left clinical and is not a broker, but she's actually working for a dental company. And so you think about all these dental companies that would hire people from within. So it's just a matter of finding them. They are sometimes harder to find, but if you can network, then you're going to find people. And we can talk about tips at some point, but do you want to hear about like non-dental, non-clinical things that people have done?
Yeah. Let's hear what you got there.
We've got real estate. A lot of people are doing real estate, investing in real estate. One of my clients, she left practice to join her husband's Airbnb short-term rental vacation business. So owning Airbnbs, that's also in real estate. I know some people who are investing in cryptocurrencies. I know a woman who is an interior designer. She quit dentistry about 10 years ago and she's an interior designer. There is a guy who I found on the internet who's a clown. Like, it's really funny. If you look at us, he's like literally one of those clowns who wears all the makeup. And then I found that there's a guy who's a dentist who joined Cirque du Soleil as an acrobat. Can you imagine? And then what about, did you know Blocky? Did you know? I think his name is Jim. I can't remember his last name, but I'm trying to hunt him down. So if anybody knows him, please connect me with this man. He is retired, I believe now, but he was an NFL referee. Did you know that?
No, did not know that.
Yes, there is an NFL referee who practiced dentistry for like 30 years. And he, got through like, he left his dental career a little early, but he practiced for, I could be wrong on the 30 years, but he practiced for a while. And what he did was he started out reffing his kids' games as a volunteer. And he basically worked his way up in the system and ended up retiring from dentistry to become an NFL referee. I mean, now how cool is that?
That is so cool.
Right. So the point really is almost like we don't really need to list all the different things that dental professionals, hygienists, dentists, anyone, we don't need to list all the things that they can do, because the truth is we have transferable skills and we can do other things, whether it's part-time dentistry and part-time, being a practice broker, or completely changing. Like that's the cool thing about dentistry is we can design it however we want. And you're still a dentist or a hygienist if you leave. That doesn't go away.
Is that what you would recommend? Let's say, I'm a year or two out of school, I'm in $400,000 worth of debt, but I just really am finding that dentistry is just not for me, but I have so much debt, I need to pay the bills. Would you recommend to continue on doing part-time dentistry, but really start to look into a different avenue?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, that level of debt is just crushing us, right? I mean, it's especially if you get here and it's not working out the way you expected it to. So you could keep working and just grinding and get really burnt out, and then maybe pay down 100,000 of the 4 or 5, right? And then you still have a bunch, and then you're so burnt out and fried and anxious and depressed and stressed that you've no energy to do anything else, and you get stuck in this cycle. Or if you're starting to begin to see the signs, why not just look at it as you're designing your career? And like you said, maybe work 4 days a week, and on the side, do that one day where you can do something else. Maybe you could then use any of that little extra income to invest in something else that's going to bring in more income. So you're investing in assets, or maybe your side gig could begin to bring in more money. And there's this belief that nothing else can make as much money as dentistry can. And it's just not true. I mean, yes, there are certain levels of income in dentistry that are hard to match, but some of the lower, really good incomes that are considered lower, but still really high for people are matchable. They really are. And one other thing that I think is so interesting is, Eric, have you heard about this loan repayment, like forgiveness, where if you work for a public health clinic or a dental school, that they'll allow you to pay your loans down on a, basically prorated for your income, like it's income based. And then after 10 years, they'll wipe away the rest of your debt. So you have to serve for 10 years. Isn't that cool? So
that's super cool.
I mean, it's still 10 years, but if you love teaching, you could be done with your loans in 10 years and be able to pay them down for those first 10 at a level that matches your income.
Yeah, I didn't know that was an option. That is great that that's out there. Laura, what would you say what's the key to finding a side gig or another job? Is it to just network and be persistent and just keep on with the belief that you can do this?
Let me tell you a story about a friend of mine named Blocky. I met Blocky. When did you reach out to me? It was during the initial
Yeah.
closures, right?
Yeah.
It was right after, sometime in 2020. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you're a really good example of what to do, because you found me on Facebook and you were like, hey, we went to college together. I didn't know, like, we didn't know that we both went to dental school, and maybe 10 years had passed since college. No, maybe a little longer, maybe.
A little bit
Um,
longer. Yeah.
a little bit, yeah. But anyway, what I watched you, and you were just making friends. You had this idea and you just talked to people. I mean, so connecting with people and building relationships and asking them what they need help with, and serving them and offering up what you can to them. And then people are going to join up with you, right? So that's what you did. You networked, you made friends, you probably surpassed me in Facebook friends, which is totally cool. But um and then suddenly, you had this viable business. And so I think it is, you have to just, the key is to put yourself out there, get support, talk to people, and carve out the time, and just really believe in yourself. That was maybe a lot of tips.
No, those are some great tips. And, networking is huge. Just like you said, talking to people, getting out there, because the person that you're talking to may not have the answer, but they may know someone that does. So just, to keep at it. And I love how you said carve out the time, because if you don't, and you just keep saying, I'm going to get to this, I'm going to get to this, it may never happen. And, these problems that you're having, if you're not loving your job, they're not going to go away on their own. So you have to make it happen. You have to set goals. You have to carve out time to make this happen. So I think that's awesome advice. All right, one final question here. Let's say, just like Back to the Future, you bumped your head, you envisioned the flux capacitor, you went back in time, you got in that DeLorean, you went 88 miles per hour. What would you, if you went back in time, what would you tell a young Dr. Laura Brenner?
I would tell her, well, it's a good question, because now I'm in a place in my life where it's all worked out exactly the way it should have, right? I maybe I would tell her to have patience, right? And know that your journey, I know that's always a good word, your journey into dentistry is exactly what you needed to be. Like we always look at dentistry as the destination, right? Like, I've invested in it. I'm here now. I can't do anything else. I can't have wasted all those years, and I can't have wasted all of that investment in it. But what if dentistry were not the destination, but if it was just a stop along the way, like just a train stop that's getting you to where you need to go? I probably, for me, would have said, just have patience, and this is going to lead you somewhere. This is just it's like a stop on the Eurail pass. Remember those? Do they even do those anymore, the Eurail passes? Did you ever do that?
I did actually. The last summer I had off in between my first and second year of dental school, me and a buddy went to Europe, and we had the Euro pass. So
Yeah, exactly.
great experience.
So that, and then the only other thing, like, if I really wanted to invest more in my dental career, would be to have more community, like connect with more people who could understand me, and like younger dentists that were my age that I could create this camaraderie with. Because I think without that, it becomes really isolating, and it's easier to become more burnt out. And then if things aren't going well, you feel ashamed. So those would be the two things.
Speaking of connecting, how do we get in touch with you to find out more about coaching, your side gigs, your Facebook group? How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my Facebook group is called Dentist Side Gigs. It is open to anyone in the dental profession. Even if you're in a non-clinical career and you don't have that DDS or DMD behind your name, we've got hygienists, dental assistants, front office. We've got everyone in the group. So join that group. I'm on Twitter at Dr. Lullabies. So Dr. Lullabies. And those are probably the two best ways. Or do a search for 10 reasons your dentist probably hates you too. And you'll find my website, which is called Lullabies Career Coaching.
Awesome. Dr. Laura Brenner, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Blocky.
And everyone, thanks to all our members on Facebook that are watching now or the recording. We truly appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Take care, Laura.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.